Today we're checking out a video by Hussein. Only 4 exercises you need for fake natty arms. So let's check this video out and see if he has any validity to these exercises. Let's check it out. Greek Freak, baby. Let's go.
Every day I get the same comments about my arms. Fake natty, Photoshop, no chance he's natural.
His name is Hussein Farhat.
Hussein, he clearly has a ridiculous physique.
You think he's on steroids? Okay.
And honestly, I get why people say that. The reason is because most guys train their arms completely wrong. They do the same curls, the same pushdowns, the same pump chasing workouts, and then they wonder why their arms still look exactly the same. And I used to be the exact same way. 3 years ago, my arms were nothing special. No size, no shape, no peak. I literally had sticks for arms, but once I understood how the biceps and triceps actually grow, and once I switched to these 4 exercises, my arms didn't just grow. They blew up so much that I had the crazy stretch marks.
I think you're literally right now getting like stretch marks from the set.
And now people literally accuse me of being on something every single day because of them.
Hussein's shoulders and fucking arms.
That's what make everybody think he's on.
Because it's just his belt goes so far.
And his arms are thick, bro. His triceps like hold.
So I don't really care if he's on anything or not, if he's natty or not. My goal today is just to review these exercises, find out if they're valid exercises and they're effective for growth. If he's natty or not, he's going to get growth no matter what. But the particular exercise he's using, do I feel they are beneficial for?
So listen closely. If you want arms so big they look enhanced, and if you want that fake natty superhero 3D look, these 4 exercises are all you need. But now let's get into exercise number 1. And that is the machine preacher curls. This is the first exercises that completely change my biceps, and it's because of one thing, and that is the stretch. You know, preacher curls force your elbows forward and lock you into that deep lengthened position, and that's a position most people never train in. And it's the exact reason to why their arms stop growing.
Well, the machine preacher curl, most of them that you get on, they're not really that effective. The stretch is beneficial, obviously, but also the flex, the new research states that's just as beneficial if you can get more tension at the flex too. This particular exercise, most machines at gyms suck. To get a good machine that's a preacher curl, it's going to be hard to find. And again, I don't think I've ever used a machine preacher curl. I've either loaded it up on a real preacher curl or, reverse preacher curl. Plate loaded, those are very beneficial.
The machine version also makes it even better because you can't cheat your reps. You're locked in, your arms are pinned, and every inch of the movement is pure tension. And here's exactly how you do it. So first thing you want to do is sit down and glue your arms into the pad. And from here you want to let your biceps stretch almost fully at the bottom, because most people stop halfway because they're scared of that deep stretch, but the stretch is literally where the muscle grows. And from there, all you want to do is curl the weight up while thinking about driving through your pinkies, and then lower the weight under control. The only thing you need to focus on is this: the full stretch, clean curl, and slow negative. And if the weight is too heavy to do that, make sure you drop the weight, because it's not about ego here, it's about tension. And if your gym doesn't have a machine preacher curl, you can replace it with dumbbell preacher curls or even dumbbell spider curls. Both will give you that forward elbow position and the same stretch that will make your biceps grow.
The spider curl is pretty good. Isolated preacher curl, if you did it and you're coming up and down like this, I would actually angle your arm like, so say you're on the preacher curl, if you bring the dumbbell head towards your chin, not straight over the bicep, it'll hit a little more long head of the biceps. You can get like a nice peak, like see the biceps, how that long head of the bicep. It's hard to get that look if you're not coming this way across to the chin instead of straight over the bicep.
And trust me, when you do these right, you'll literally feel your biceps stretch in a way regular curls will never give you. And that stretch is exactly why these will explode your arm growth. But biceps alone obviously are not going to give you that fake natty 3D look, and for that you need thickness.
Now as far as thickness goes with bicep curls, that preacher curl compared to straight bar curls, there's no comparison. Straight bar curls are going to grow your arms way more than that machine preacher curl. Plus anything that's machine compared to free weights, about 100% muscle gain when you're doing free weights compared to a machine. Even selectorized machines, they're decent, but that's more of like 3rd or 4th exercise after doing real weighted exercises. So straight bar curls is your #1 exercise for growth in the biceps, and you can get a deep stretch coming down on those straight bar curls.
Which brings me to the next exercise, and that is dumbbell preacher hammer curls. And this is exactly where you're going to be able to build that arm density. And what I mean by this is the thickness underneath the bicep that will make your arms look big even when they're relaxed.
It's like big.
And most guys never train the brachialis or the brachioradialis properly, and these are the muscles that actually make your biceps pop, and when they grow, they literally push your biceps outward, giving you that fake natty 3D look.
Hammer curls can do that. This particular one he's doing is pretty good. Thing about hammer curls is they do a lot of forearm work too. So they're not bad to do because you're going to get a lot of forearms mixed in with the bicep. And they will thicken your arms up, kind of like that Schwarzenegger look, from the side. So if you haven't done hammer curls, they're effective. They don't hit the belly of the bicep as much. They will thicken the arm up, but it's just a different kind of exercise. Alternating standing hammer curls are good. Those are effective, but I'd probably do a concentration hammer curls to get a deep stretch on that and probably more effective growth than this particular exercise right here.
To do this right, set up on a preacher bench with a completely neutral grip. And from here, you want to let your arm fully extend at the bottom by keeping your elbows locked into the pad so that you're not swinging the weight. And from there, all you want to do is curl the dumbbell straight up and straight down with complete control. Make sure you're not using any momentum, no rocking whatsoever, and obviously make sure you're not cheating. Think about clean, smooth reps with a heavy focus on the stretch and the squeeze. And as you get stronger, you can increase the weight, but only if your form stays locked in. And if you start flaring your elbows or swinging the dumbbells, then you're missing the whole point of this exercise. And if this variation bothers your elbows or your tendons, then a great alternative would be the behind the body cable hammer curls. You still get that amazing stretch, and cables give you even smoother tension from start to finish.
And I don't think I've ever done that exercise. I probably would never do this exercise. What I would do if you want the thickness of a hammer curl from doing cable curls is grab a tricep bar, the V bar that has the little circles on the bottom that you do triceps with. Stand and do preacher curls with that. That'll thicken the hell out of your biceps, way more effective. It's a lot more challenging exercise. You don't have to stand reverse. You can face the cable and they will blow your arms up. Just a little trick from the Greek Freak to do a more effective cable curl. That's a hammer style curl. Use that V bar on the tricep and curl that bitch up and blow your arms up.
And now that we've built the front of the arm, let's build the part that actually makes your arm look huge from behind, and that is the triceps. And the first exercise to do that is going to be the seated overhead cable extensions. Now, most people never grow their tricep the way they should because they don't train the long head properly. And the long head is the biggest part of your triceps. It makes up almost half of the muscle, and it only gets fully stretched when your arms are overhead. And that's why overhead extensions are going to build size so quickly. They put your triceps into a stretch that regular pushdowns just can't. And to do this right, first thing you want to do is drag a bench to the cable stack and sit it down. From here, you want to grab a rope or a bar attachment, whatever feels the best for you. I like to use the bar. And from here, all you want to do is keep your elbows pointed forward and let the cable travel behind your head into a deep stretch.
This one's an effective exercise. I've done it standing or seated, short shoulder press bench. These are effective. The stretch is really good. You can also do it with a dumbbell. Both of them stretch the crap out of your triceps. You're really getting that deep stretch. And then coming up and getting a good flex at the top. The difference on this one compared to the dumbbell is when he comes up, he can actually pronate out. So he can hit that lateral head a little more and shape it a little better by using the cables rather than the free weight.
Extend your arms all the way up while keeping the movement slow and
Notice
controlled.
how he pronates.
You don't want your elbows fluttering out to the sides, and you don't want to rush through the reps. The whole point here is the stretch. The deeper the stretch, the more your triceps will grow. And if you don't have access to cables, you can use dumbbells and do skull crushers, but make sure the dumbbells travel behind your head, and that's how you're going to be able to really engage the long head and keep it fully stretched and fully engaged. But now that we've covered the long head, we're going to move over to the next head, and that is the short head of your triceps, and that's where the next exercise comes in. And to do that, we're going to be doing rope cable tricep pushdown. Now, the long head obviously is going to give you the size, but the lateral head is going to give you that sharp, carved out horseshoe look. And rope pushdowns are going to hit the lateral head perfectly because they're going to keep constant tension throughout the entire range.
Now, that is true. Exercise is good because you can pronate out, so you can really get that horseshoe look using the rope. But I would use this more as like a third or fourth exercise and do all of your aggressive exercises first, whether you're doing the overheads and then you're doing real tricep extension, bench dips elevated with weights on your hips. Those kind of exercises will really tax the triceps. And then I would start throwing these in as like a third or fourth exercise when you already got the blood in there, as you'll be able to do more reps with these and really work on holding that pronation and working on that horseshoe look as a third or fourth exercise into your arm routine.
First thing you want to do is lock your elbows to your sides and push the rope down apart at the bottom. Focus on squeezing your triceps as hard as you can on every rep. And the goal here is going to be control. Make sure you're not using any momentum. And if your shoulders start rolling forward, or if you're swinging the weight, then you're not actually hitting the muscles the way you should. So keep everything tight and let your triceps do all the work. And if you want an alternative, you can do JM press with dumbbells or with a Smith machine, whatever you prefer, because they're going to hit the triceps really well. But cables are usually smoother and easier to keep under control, which is why I prefer them instead of the JM press.
The JM press is very hard to perfect. A Smith machine's good to try it on. You got to set up right. It's a very hard exercise. You'll be better off doing a skull crusher or nose breaker. Be able to get more gains from that than you would the JM press, as it's just a very advanced exercise to do. As far as the triceps, you're always going to get the most growth with an actual tricep bar, either a straight bar where you're holding your grip close, and that'll really fatten up your triceps, or you can use the V-bar grip and just make sure you're looping it around like this way over your body. So if you're like this, you're looping it around the body like that. So looping it out and around, and have your hands turn to keep that pressure on the outer palm. As a lot of arms, the secret on growth of arms is keeping them close to your body, and particularly the pressure on that outer palm for triceps. That's my recommendation if you want really good arms for shaping and sculpting.
Now that you've got these 4 exercises, here's how to actually use them in your training so that you see real results. You can either plug these into your current program, or you can dedicate a full day just for arms. Both work, but it really depends on how much volume you're already doing and how often you want to train your arm.
If you're doing a pull day, the best time to do the biceps is at the end. You get so much biceps when you're doing your pulls, so I would recommend doing that into your back days. And then your triceps, you can do at the end of your push days. You won't have to do as much to get effective gains, but you don't have to do as much on those push or pull days if you want to work more arms. What I do is I usually do my push and pulls together, and then I'll do legs, and then Wednesdays I'll dedicate that to just arms. You can get great gains either doing supersets, as you get massive pumps when one's stretching, the other one's contracting tighter, and vice versa. So that'll create more blood volume and more growth. So I highly recommend doing arms together as a solo day, whether you're supersetting them or whether you're doing one and then the other, one and then the other. So you can also do all your bis first and all your tris, but it's more effective if you're either supersetting them or doing one after the other because of the stretch. One stretching, so if I'm doing the triceps, my biceps are stretching when I'm here. If I'm doing my triceps, the bicep is stretching. That'll create more contraction in those muscles because they're getting stretched in between the opposing muscle, which will create more blood and more pump and more growth.
You're running push-pull legs. Something I personally like is putting triceps on your pull day and then putting biceps on your push day. I know it sounds backwards, but it actually works really well because your arms are fresher when you train them. You're not already burnt out from pressing or pulling heavy weight, so the pump and the quality of the reps are way better when you switch them around.
You can do that if you want. I would normally only do that if I was supersetting for people trying to burn more calories and more fat in my workouts, because it's not really affecting your push if you're doing a bicep in between. It's not really affecting your pull if you're doing a tricep in between. So I would do more of those for like superset days, but I would never use that at a growth day like he's talking about, where you do all your pushes and then you finish on your biceps. But you can do that. I'm not biased to it. It does work and you are fresh. So it's really your call. It depends on how you want to set up your regimen for what you're working out on. And if you like doing that, by all means, go for it. It doesn't bother me.
And now the most important thing is going to be frequency. You want to hit your arms at least twice a week if you recover well. In my experience, honestly, arms respond really well to frequency as long as your form is clean and you're not ego lifting.
You can do your arms more frequently. Any muscle group, if you want more growth, you want to hit it twice a week. You're trying to hit a certain amount of reps per week for the bigger muscle groups. Chest and back and legs, 120 to 150 reps a week. So it's probably going to take 2 routines. Arms, you could probably get away with 60 to 80 reps. Doesn't need as much. Shoulders, maybe 80 to 100 reps. The deal is with arms is if you want more growth, they recover really fast. It's small muscles. So you could actually do them on every other day and get a lot of growth if your primary focus is arms, and you could go 3 days a week. Again, that's your call on arms. They recover faster than a normal 2-day split from a chest day, a back day, or a leg day. So a little tip for you.
For example, I've only been doing 2 to 3 sets to failure for the past 3 years, and I've been seeing amazing growth.
Oh my god, what the fuck is that?
But one thing that's extremely important is that your progression has to be consistent. You know, every week something needs to improve. It could be one extra rep, or it could be, you know, a little more weight, or it could be slowing down the eccentric movement and getting a better stretch, or shortening your rest times, or just a cleaner form. All of that will count towards progression, but the goal is to make the movement harder over time, not easier.
And he's right, progression overload is key. But when you work out, you got to get after it. You got to push yourself. You can't go in there and be lackadaisical and just go through the motions. If you want growth, you got to go in there and you got to bust your ass. You got to push hard. You got to push past failure, and you got to work. After like 4 hard weeks of work, take a 1 week, a deload week to let your muscles and joints and everything recover, and then get back at it and hit hard. But you got to push. If you're not in there pushing, you're not going to be able to get gains. So you really got to get aggressive. You got to push yourself. I don't know what you need to do to get your mind right as far as like stimulant, if you need some coffee or whatever. Anything to get you going and get you flowing in there so you can push and get aggressive. Good music, whatever you need. Get in there and bust your ass, push yourself and get some growth. As most people like me and other people aren't taking enhancing drugs, so you have to like get it more naturally through your diet and supplement, protein and stuff. You got to push to get that growth if you want to get in there and work. So you got to work, baby. Let's go.
Here's the honest truth, you know, none of this matters if you don't have the foundations dialed in. You know, if you're not eating enough protein, which is around 1 gram per pound of body weight, then you're not going to see the growth that you're looking for. And if you're not eating enough calories, then your arms are not going to fill out either. And you know, if you're not sleeping at least 7 to 9 hours, your recovery is going to suffer. And if you're not taking your sets close to failure, then you're going to be leaving gains on the table.
He's got a point there. Protein, when you're actually trying to grow, 1 gram per pound of body weight is good. If you're in a deficit, I'd probably take it up to 1.5, but I'm normally always at 1.5 over. It keeps you really lean. When you take in protein every 2 to 3 hours, it creates an anabolic environment in your body, so it really leans you out really good. A higher protein will help lean you out. You just got to have high protein going in all the time, every 2 to 3 hours. And again, you're not going to grow without carbs. If you want to grow, you need carbs. Plus, they're going to fuel your workouts to get the growth. If you're in there and you want to push, you got to eat those dang carbs.
You know, I see clients every day in the exact same shoes as you know, missing meals here and there, skipping a workout, or having an unplanned cheat meal, losing momentum for a few days. And honestly, it happens. You know, life isn't perfect and nobody's going to be 100% on point all the time. But the truth is this, you know, those moments don't ruin your progress unless you let them. You know, what matters is that you don't let yesterday's mistakes decide who you are today. When something goes wrong, we always need to find a way around it. You adjust, you get back on track, and you keep moving. You know, as long as you're progressing session after session, then the results will come in. It's literally impossible to not grow if you stay consistent over time. And that's exactly what I teach my clients and what I want to teach you as well. You know, you don't need to be perfect. You just need to keep showing up, keep making small improvements, and keep stacking wins, because that's exactly how every transformation happens.
All right, so she has some decent stuff in there. With arms, I have a really good arm video, but with arms, if you want a lot of growth or shaping or even more peak or whatever, you got to throw supinations in to get that good peak. Like the bicep in general, like mine right here, see that, all that peak in that bicep, like that's done by a lot of supination. And that's when you supinate, when you turn your wrist and you're supinating, or you're doing certain exercises like lean back curls on an incline bench that hits the long head, and to hit that outer head as far as like working on that tricep. He was talking about the horseshoes. So his exercises are good. There's better ones. If you use the tricep one with the rope more towards like a 3rd or 4th exercise, you'll get really good gains. And I would use it to where you're doing about 12 to 15 reps. You can really get that pronation out and squeeze and flex it. That hammer curl is not bad. I'm not a big fan of the machine preacher curl. Most of those machines suck. You're not going to get much gains from that. The one that he's had was decent, but again, free weights are always better in anything you do, as far as anything in the gym. Machines and cables, more for like a 3rd, 4th exercise, as you're not going to get as much muscle gain from doing machines as you would free weights. Free weights give you 100% muscle gains. Utilize the free weights for your growth. I highly recommend that, and that's what I would do. Pretty good video though. He's a young kid. They don't know a lot. They haven't been around the fitness industry as long as I have. I don't know what they do outside of their training. I don't really care, but I'm just giving you my assessment on the actual exercises that are great for growth. I'll put a link for one of my buys and tries workout in this video here. I'll send that to you. And then I have a fitness app it's in my bio. If you guys want any programming, I can help you guys get great results. But Greek Freak here, checking out Hussein's video. Some pretty decent stuff. It's okay, but there's more effective ones out there for you. So I highly recommend doing the ones that I suggest. You'll probably get better gains and be really happy with your results. Greek Freak, baby. Let's go.